Hi, I'm Matt Stoller, author of Monopoly-focused newsletter Big and an antitrust policy analyst. Welcome to the latest Big Breakdown on Breaking Points. 2/3 of people over the age of 70, about 30 or 40 million Americans, experience hearing loss. It's just something that happens as you age, and untreated, it can lead to dementia. But fortunately, we have something for this. If you have bad eyesight, you get glasses. If you lose hearing, you get hearing aids, which are basically, it's a microphone and an amplifier meant to fit into your ear, along with software and an app to control it, algorithms and things like that to improve hearing. There are different styles depending on your hearing and what feels comfortable with hearing aids. But there's a major problem going on with this market with hearing aids. Only 20% of people who have hearing loss actually end up buying and using them. Why is that? Yes, there's a monopoly story, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Now, a good amount of the problem with hearing aids is that they're kind of embarrassing. People don't like to admit that they need help hearing. It makes them feel old, and they don't really like feeling stigmatized. No one does. But there's another problem with this, more measurable problem, and that's the hefty prices. A few years ago, buying a hearing aid cost roughly $4,800. That is the third largest purchase for many people after a house and a car. It's a lot of money. And as a result, a lot of people can't afford hearing aids, and they can't afford to replace them when they break, especially if you're a retiree living on Social Security or you have limited amounts of income. With today's technology, hearing aids just shouldn't cost this much. And in truth, the prices are much higher than the costs really are. So I think we can see this because we can compare the prices abroad with what we have in the United States. In England, the government buys hearing aids, the same hearing aids that we use here, at $68 a piece versus the wholesale price to retailers and hearing aid specialists, who are called audiologists, in the United States. That price is between $300 and $600. And that's not what consumers pay here. That's the wholesale price. The actual price to consumers runs into the thousands, as I just pointed out. Now, the driving force between the gap between what Americans are paying for hearing aids compared to their counterparts in England lies in the market power of the firms that make and sell hearing aids. The industry is controlled by 5 very profitable hearing aid manufacturers, firms you haven't heard of because they receive very little publicity and the brands are not well known. So these are companies Sonova, WS Audiology, William Demant, GN Resound, and Starkey. Now, according to the Global Partnership for Assistive Technology, these manufacturers control 90% of the market, and they make a lot of money. Their margins are around 25%, and gross margins are around 70 to 80%. So why can these companies keep prices so high? Well, one reason is that the Food and Drug Administration requires a prescription for a hearing aid, and that makes it hard to bring cheaper and more innovative devices to market. That's why Apple can't say that its AirPods can serve as hearing aids for moderate hearing loss, even though it's likely that AirPods can do this, and tens of millions of people already own AirPods, and there's not really a stigma to using them. Now, in 2017, Congress acted to solve this problem by loosening FDA rules on prescription requirements. The goal was to introduce new, cheaper competition by allowing firms to sell hearing aids over the counter without a prescription. Hearing aids would be like glasses. Today, you can go into a store and buy what are called readers, that are glasses that, they're not prescription. And eventually people, if they work, they often do get real prescription glasses. And a lot of people do it that way. You can't do that with hearing aids, but you should be able to for the sake of competition in prices and just being able to hear better and avoid dementia and live your life fully. Or so went the thinking according to this legislation that passed in 2017. And after the bill passed, it seemed like it worked. Bose, which makes speakers and great audio equipment, soon sought to enter the market. And indeed, there is a Bose OTC hearing aid that's over-the-counter OTC hearing aid on the market today. Sort of, because it's currently only being sold in a few states because of state regulations. When the FDA finally came out with proposed rules last October, and this is important, something weird happened. The stock prices of the major hearing aid producers, which you would expect to fall when they face more competition and their margins are under pressure, didn't budge. Wall Street, in other words, wasn't particularly concerned that competition would bring down prices and impact profits like conventional economic models of thinking would portray. Why is that? Well, it turns out that these firms use a variety of techniques to keep prices high. So the creation of an OTC market is just the beginning of the fight to make these products cheaper. It's also possible that Wall Street is wrong. I actually think that Wall Street probably is wrong, but it's important to go through the barriers to understand why hearing aids, but also more broadly medical devices and things like glasses and dental implants and whatnot are way too expensive, cost much more than they should be. So how do the hearing aid firms do this, the incumbents? Well, first they share patents through a common pool called the Hearing Instrument Manufacturer Patent Partnership. HIMPP controls 90% of the hearing technology available to consumers worldwide. That's according to their own website. So if you want to enter the market with a new device, it's possible that you'll infringe on one of these patents, which means you'll have to pay up. It's just a barrier to entry. Second, these firms have also bought up a bunch of companies trying to enter the space and made deals with popular consumer brands that compete with them. So they're taking out competitors through corporate mergers and alliances. Now third, these companies control the whole process behind a patient getting fitted for a hearing aid, from the insurance to the audiologist. Several of these firms have subsidiaries that manage the hearing part of health insurance. WS Audiology, for instance, owns True Hearing and Hearing Care Solutions, which runs healthcare plans and discount plans for Medicare Advantage insurers, including Humana, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, Aetna, Cigna, etc. So if you have health insurance with, say, Aetna, and you need a hearing aid, who does Aetna send you to find out, what kind of hearing aid you need or what kind of hearing assistance you might require? Well, they send you to someone who will tell you that you need one of their particular hearing aids, or at least a hearing aid that is very expensive. Now, these manufacturers also own or affiliate with networks of audiologists and hearing specialists. Starkey, for instance, not only owns the benefit management company Start Hearing, but runs the hearing aid specialist network Starkey HearCare. So most people with a hearing loss problem will go to the doctor, they'll use their insurance, and that's controlled by a hearing aid maker, which will then send them to an audiologist who is perhaps also employed by that hearing aid maker. And here's what's craziest. Hearing aid makers sometimes even pay these medical professionals more if they recommend a more expensive hearing aid. That is legitimately crazy. Doctors are not allowed to get a cut from the pharmaceutical company when they prescribe medicine to you, for good reason. But that's how the hearing aid market works right now. And most patients won't know about these embedded conflicts of interest or the kickbacks that are likely involved. It would be bad business if you told them, because there would likely be a negative reaction to the structure of the market. Consumers would be like, what? You're making a lot of money on this massive purchase that I have to put forward? Like, that is wrong. The entire business model around hearing aids, causing the prices to be way higher for US customers, at least to me, seems highly unethical. Now, one simple way to fix this problem would be to charge for the audiologist service, which is quite valuable, and the hearing aid or software packages separately. These firms make that impossible because they bundle the device and the fitting service. So they make it impossible for consumers to understand exactly what they're paying for and who the money is going to. Now, if the products were sold separately, audiologists would have an easier time servicing patients with a range of devices. They could choose which one is best for you or for the patient instead of choosing the one that gets them the most money. Now, there's a lot of cool technology here. There are even software packages coming out that allow people with moderate hearing loss to use off-the-shelf electronics without any new hardware at all. Here's a quick demonstration of a software suite called Jacati, which I thought was particularly cool. It's just a few seconds, but just take a look about so you can see how this technology is developing.
Working with a plan and avoiding subjectivity, his commitment to fresh ideas often stretched what we thought we knew about his career.
It transmits high-quality audio wirelessly back and forth from speaker to listener with no perceptible delay. Third-party products can also use the following Jacody Hearing Suite built-in proprietary technologies.
Now, that's pretty cool technology. The thing is audiologists who might like these newer options, and many of them do, because these people went into this profession not to make money, but to help people hear, are often scared to offer these kinds of options, because right now they actually need the hearing aids that these firms provide. It could also easily get cut off and have their livelihood threatened. I mean, they also get customer referrals from the subsidiaries of these hearing aid makers. They are, they're both given incentives, but they're also, there's an implicit threat there as well. So it's not so much the audiologists that are the problem here. It's that the hearing aid manufacturers who have structured this industry through a whole range of, what's called vertical integration, or owning multiple pieces of the supply chain so that you can control the whole industry. Now, there's also the problem of maintenance. Suppliers have proprietary fitting software, and that can make it harder for hearing aid specialists to learn, to actually use different hearing aids when they shift to another supplier. And for some of these products, you're not allowed to repair them if they break. This is, you guys know about right to repair. It's the same problem. And if you have to get the manufacturer to do the repair and you've upset the manufacturer, that can be a huge problem. It's just not a good idea if you're an audiologist to piss off one of these big companies who often dominate the hearing market or can dominate your particular medical practice. Now, undergirding the power of these incumbents is the usual bundle of lobbying and campaign contributions, with hearing aid firms using political muscle to press states to prevent the sale of over-the-counter hearing aids through the internet. The FDA rules would actually preempt this, and that's when they started getting federal. So in 2017, when Congress acted, as I outlined earlier, these firms immediately got political in a big way on a federal level. The president of Starkey, Brandon Solowich, who runs the biggest hearing aid maker in the United States, launched a lobbying campaign called Listen Carefully to push back on Congress. So let's take a listen to his message to lawmakers. It's a little bit boring, but this is actually how political conspiracies work. They are actually a little bit boring, but this is why things are expensive and crappy across the economy.
Your hearing is as unique as a fingerprint.
So why are some politicians oversimplifying hearing health solutions?
They are narrowly focused on costs, while many other factors such as social stigma actually influence hearing health outcomes.
That's why Washington must get the OTC hearing aid regulation and Medicare expansion right.
Hearing health professionals should be part of the equation.
Because hearing loss is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Are you listening carefully?
So he's not wrong about stigma, but being narrowly focused on cost, or I should say, put sarcastic air quotes, narrowly focused on cost, is bad, of course, if you're making money by charging high prices. Now, ever since the 2017 bill passed, Starkey has become one of the leading donors in the medical device space. In this election cycle alone, the founder of Starkey donated $125,000 to GOP leader Kevin McCarthy. You can see Kevin McCarthy talking here. He's the House Republican leader and potentially the next Speaker of the House. This guy also donated $330,000 to the Republican Party committee, whose goal it is to win back Congress and make McCarthy the Speaker. Last cycle, Starkey spent $1.6 million on campaign contributions, which included contributions to state Republican parties nationwide because they wanted to control state rules. Now, other Starkey executives gave tens of thousands of dollars to both Democratic Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and the powerful West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, and this was to try to get some of their hearing aid restrictions into the Build Back Better bill that failed. Now, for a time, this sort of quasi-cartel, we'll call it that, was afraid that the OTC hearing aid market would take off and cut at their business. But back in February, over the course of just a few days, 5 hearing aid makers raised their prices on hearing aids at the same time, all citing inflation. They are no longer worried that they will face real competition. If they were, they wouldn't be raising their prices, because at this point, they don't think there's any way that consumers will choose OTC hearing aids without them. Now, they may be wrong, they may be right, we'll see. So what can we learn from problems in the hearing aid market and Congress actually doing the right thing? Well, first, what I've described, this kind of corrupted, middlemen-driven industry that actually costs people not just money, but literally their ability to think, to hear, to live a full life, to communicate with their families and their communities. It's not just a problem with hearing aids or hearing. As I said earlier, this market looks a lot like glasses or dental implants, or in some ways, pharmaceuticals and other forms of medical devices. Consumers are relying on a trusted medical professional who has in some cases been subverted by a dominant firm, or in other cases is holding out to help patients, but has increasingly less power in either case. Now in glasses, the dominant firm is Luxottica. Warby Parker has a little bit of power there. In dental implants, it's Henry Schein, and you can go down the list in all of these different industries. There's usually a couple of dominant players who use similar arrangements. It's not the same arrangements, but it's similar ones. The second thing we can learn is that despite the rancid nature of current politics, we actually can make things better. If we undo some of the corruption in our economy, prices will drop and service will improve and our lives will get better. The point is, don't lose hope. We have amazing technology, and politics can actually work. In a few years, there will be an over-the-counter hearing aid market. In fact, it could be as soon as this fall. Apple and Bose and probably a bunch of others are coming in to challenge the dominant players. And more importantly, help people who need to hear again for less money. Thanks for watching this big breakdown on the Breaking Points channel. If you'd like to know more about big business and how our economy really works, you could sign up below for my market power focused newsletter, Big, where I go into weird monopolies, fun monopolies, unexpected monopolies, and then the policymakers who are trying to address the problem. Thanks a lot and have a good one.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.